Okay, Sahaan, welcome to this session of Mind Talks. And
Thanks, Ian. It's honestly a pleasure to be here with you.
awesome. And especially, I think you're the youngest person I'm interviewed so far.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
So
interesting, though. That makes me happy.
it shows how much you have achieved already for me to interview you and to have your story out there. So compliments to you, Sahan. I think you've been a really impressive guy right from the first time I met you. Just for all of you to understand, Sahan is one of the founders of Bubble Incorporated. It's now an international organization. They have offices in Bangalore and in UK. And I must tell you, I am so happy to be working with Sahan. He does my digital marketing, and him and his team, Zukrov and Mamta, I don't remember some of the names.
Mamta and all of them, yeah, Mamta, Zukrov, and yeah, Shweta.
Awesome. And I'm so happy with the output that I'm getting from you all, Sahan. Everyone is noticing our digital footprint now.
Means a lot, Ian, for sure.
I thank you for that. So, Sahan, the reason I've actually asked you to come on this session of mine is for me to understand, or for the world to understand, how does a young guy like Sahan get all this drive, passion, and how come you're successful so early in life? So just in your own words, tell us some part of your journey and what you'd like the world to know about you.
Definitely. And I think it's a lot to do from an early age. I think it's a lot to do with your mindset. I'm sure you agree with me on this, and making sure that it never gets to you or you never get satisfied with what you've done and you keep going. I think that's what motivates me the most. And since I was a kid, I mean, like I've been brought up in a business family. So my grandpa was an entrepreneur, started from nothing. My dad was an entrepreneur, started from nothing. So from an early age, one thing I understood is the biggest myth a lot of people are not privileged enough to understand, that you don't need money to make it big, right? You have effort, you have dedication, discipline, and these are the traits when it's put on a persistently long period of time, you're actually able to see some results. Because when I think my grandpa came, I don't know, this is what I'm listening to. When my dad used to tell us stories when I was a kid. So he used to tell me that when my grandpa came in town, he had less than $100 in his pocket, and he went from door to door knocking with a basket, selling silk and blouse pieces and things like that. And in 5 years, he became one of the top 10 wholesalers of silk in the country. And then he sold the company. Then dad started with mom their own fashion boutique, using the same principles he learned, I'm assuming, from his father, saying that, you need to start small and then make it big. Everyone who starts big, what happens is you don't see a lot of these hidden costs, hidden mistakes, and you're not able to, that agility goes away. And learning that from an early age, I started my first company when I was 15 years old. And then it didn't work, obviously. I started a few things, actually. I started a bow tie company, then I started a news app, I started a food truck, then I started a black steel consultancy, basically for people who wanted to go abroad. So what these things honestly taught me is that it taught me how I could register my own company. It taught me how to do my taxes. It taught me how the outside world is we've been cocooned from when you're in school and college. So I think these are the things which really gives you a reality check and tells you, it is not always the smartest or the most talented one who wins. It is the most dedicated and one with the most discipline, I would say, who can move forward with those principles. I feel that's helped me. My upbringing has helped me quite a bit. Other than that, I just kept going. And the fact that you get accustomed to failure at an early age and you befriend it rather than fear it,
right?
I think those are the little things which kept me going, I would say.
Awesome. And now I understand, Sahan, that this is not your first business. I was thinking this is your first business, and therefore you know how to make it right the first time was where one of my key questions were. But you answered that. You had a lot of trial sessions with other businesses that you started, ended. So some of them didn't end as the way you wanted it. What did you learn? If there's one thing that you learned from the failed businesses, what would that be?
So Ian, I would never say any of them were failed businesses per se as it giving money. All of them did make money because I started with nothing. So even 1 rupee is a profit, right? So what I learned is if a model cannot be scalable, then it's not a good business.
Right.
That was the biggest takeaway, because I've always understood one thing. We have only, let's say, 12 hours to 14 hours a day where we can work.
Right.
When you're selling your time for money, it becomes very difficult to scale because you have limited time, so limited money.
Right.
Right. So I realize any model we work with, I should be able to either train someone else or a model which can be scalable where I can, like, let's say you created a product which you can sell and hundreds and thousands of people can use it on a subscription basis. Or
Right.
let's say you run an organization like Solutions where you've got brilliant trainers with the same expertise who've been trained from you who are able to go, teach and inspire so many other people the same way you do. So I think that is one of the biggest takeaways I feel is like, don't do anything which you cannot scale because you will make money, but you won't be able to scale.
So the reason for you to move from one business to the other was the scalability part of it, not the loss. Because,
100%.
like you said, you're starting with zero. Anything is a profit on top of that.
Anything is a profit. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But
brilliantly said. That's so brilliant. In fact, one of the
yeah.
principles of business that I try to share with people who are getting into business is invest as much as you can afford to lose.
Oh yeah, for
You
sure.
want an even better model. You're saying if you're not investing anything, whatever you get is a profit.
See that again, definitely, but it depends. Some people might say that, okay, you know what, my friends, family don't mind investing a couple of lakhs. A few of them, it could be a couple of thousands. Whatever it is, like I would say that shouldn't be the hurdle for you to say that now I cannot do it because I don't have money. Because a lot of people think that it's always the idea. There's one quote which I always love, Ian. It says, the most number of ideas in the world is found in the graveyard because all of us take it to bed. Right? We never really act on it. So I would say if you want to build, let's say, a $1 million garment empire, start by selling one t-shirt, not building a showroom.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yeah, you're really smarter than your years, and I must call it out. Fabulous. So how did all this happen? Where do you think, you got your first seeds for this genius that you're displaying now?
I think college. I definitely think college because Christ, what happened is I studied at Christ. So when I was in school, I was the opposite of this. I was extremely shy. I had huge amount of stage fright. So what happens is when you stick around with your close friends, it's harder for you to move away from the personality given to you, right? Like when you're around people, you are Sahaan. This is how you behave, right? For you to move away from that, it's definitely difficult. So I said I want a fresh start. So I shifted to Christ. When I went there, lots of these business simulations and fests, and that's where the one of the fests is where the first time I saw you in. This was when I was like in college, and you were a chief guest or a speaker. I remember. I think these are the events which really put people on the spot, put a good amount of stress, pressure, basically real world simulations which you'd see in a business. I think that really taught me a lot how the world could be and how you can think fast on your feet.
Excellent. Excellent. So a lot of people think these fests are just fun and games, and nothing comes out
Definitely
of it.
not.
But I
Yeah.
think the organizing of it, getting the sponsorship,
Yeah.
pulling it off, making sure that everyone is there on time. I know Christ College does a great job on meeting the guests at the
Oh,
gate,
definitely. Yeah.
the bouquets and everything. I mean, everything is so well meticulously planned. Oh, great, great. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So, San, give me some more input into the mind of the man. Now, you're a youngster. How old are you? And, you have a young team. How does that work?
So, I think in my mind, I always say that, never consider age as something which, because sometimes in the early days when I say early days, I just mean 2 years ago, when I used to go and meet clients, it would be like, you're so young. I don't know if you're the right person. And at that time, even though I knew I had the skills, I didn't have that much work to show for.
Right.
Right? So it becomes hard in the beginning. But one thing which has kept me going is like, I think freedom is what drives me more than money. I think any good entrepreneur, if you ask them, I think it will be the same thing voluntarily or involuntarily. Because it's not the money which you're after, but rather the fact that you could live your life in a way there is no restrictions or choices. You get to do what you want and live a comfortable life. Right? So when I look at freedom, I feel the biggest thing which drives me is the fact that there are some secrets, I believe, which school never teaches us, college never taught us, half the people in this country don't even know about. And I learned these things, I think, when I read the first book. It was called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Exactly.
Absolutely amazing book. I think if you're an entrepreneur, you should read it. Where he actually speaks about, I keep this so close to my heart because I think this is what makes the world of a difference. He says that the problem is never making money. The problem is managing money. Because an employee in even India earning, let's say, 50,000 rupees a month, if he keeps just 25,000 bucks aside and he invests it in an SIP for 25 years at an average rate of 10% also, he's making almost 3 to 4 crore at the end of it. But for a person to even think that I could have 3 to 4 crore at 45, It's never there, because I feel that these are the things when you keep learning, you always find new things. Because I always do this every Sunday for me. It's learning. I put my phone on airplane mode. I need to read or I need to do a course. Because if I'm not sharpening my brain or learning something new, I'm not able to add extra value. I think these are the little things which keep me going, and always believing that there's something more to learn, and always will be.
What is the one thing you learned this week?
I think this week what I learned was, I would say, management in terms of the company, where I would say that if I have to scale more, how can I set systems which allows the company to run with less of me? And I was reading a book, and I'm trying to use these principles to put them together. It's called Influence, the book by I think it's by Robert Cialdini.
Cialdini, yes.
Right. I was just going back, and I'd read it before. There were a few parts which I felt I could use again. I was skimming through it, and I feel that's another problem, right? In the beginning, it's how do I get the money? But now it's how do you run it without you being involved, so you can dedicate your time building the business or investing.
Then how do you manage things like, okay, I'm just asking a simple
Yeah, of
question
course.
that other businessmen could learn from. One of the things that I find is, a lot of times your own people, your own, teammates could be a competition tomorrow, and that's how it goes. So how do you tackle that? Because you're saying if the business can run without you, it can run on its own with somebody else in charge. I mean, their business. How would you explain that? What would you say?
That's an interesting point, Ian. So my logic is this. So if someone, honestly, let's assume that, let's take an example. Let's say Mamta, my creative director, if she's to leave tomorrow, or like let's say 1 year later, that she's got enough, she's learned well enough from the company, and she says, San, I'm going to start my own company, I would be so happy for her, because as an entrepreneur, it drives me and keeps me pumped. Because at the end of the day, I believe everyone is dispensable. Like no one is indispensable, right? Including me, everyone can be replaced. But when someone leaves the company on a good term, and they feel that it's like a good notice period is given, and she's doing something in her room is going to help her grow, I would be pumped. I'd be like, what, I wish you the best and good luck. But another point with what you asked is like, how do you keep in mind that when it gets too automated, you're not required anymore? I think it's again a mindset thing, where how you think about it. Because I believe that if I'm making X with Bubble with me being involved, how do I make 2x? And I can never make 2x because I'm involved in the operations rather than business development, right? And I'm sure like even you could relate to this, and a lot of other entrepreneurs, where you need time to be building the business and scaling the business rather than handling operations. That is something which I would say I've not mastered yet. I'm doing, I think it's a learning process and a longer learning curve than any other thing which people can learn quickly. But I think it's each business is different, and the fact that you're aware of this problem and you're learning makes the world of a difference.
Fabulous. So one of the things now, you said you're young, but you didn't reveal your age. And
I'm 24.
Oh, you're 24. Okay.
I'm 24. Yeah.
That's showing off a little bit. But anyway. So, Sahaan, I'm so happy for you. Just for the record, I want to put this down. We talked for hardly 5 minutes and you closed the deal on the phone.
Yeah.
I was ready to say, these are the guys we had to go with. And we spoke with 3 other companies, by the way. We spoke with 3 other companies with a lot of track record, a lot of experience. And all of them are coming from the top and saying, we can do this, we can do that, and we can do this. And, I somehow when I talk to you, and you're the 4th guy, and I just spoke to you saying, because Kavitha said, why don't you just talk to this guy? They're a young group, they don't have that much of experience, but why don't we just give them a chance? And I talked to you, and I'm telling you, in 5 minutes I closed, and they were sitting here. Sanjay and Kavitha were in my cabin that time. And they said, what? You just closed on the phone? I said, yeah. Yeah, I just closed on the phone. I like this guy. I like the guy. I like his confidence. I like the way he presents his point. He's very authentic. Oh, I read people on the phone. So it wasn't difficult for me to figure out I'm dealing with the right guy.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah. So it was a no-brainer for me. But I want to compliment you. And I want you to tell the rest of the world, especially youngsters like you, 24 years old, how did you pick up this ability to speak so well, to communicate a point so effectively? I want you to share some of that, because that is what really closes deals. And your authenticity, how did you build it up? I know reading is one of them. I know.
100%. Ian. I think like from your side, I'm sure you're faster than other people to pick up on these cues. But from my side, I've always believed in one thing. You can always get a client if you promise them the moon, but that is not the point.
This one.
right? If you say that I'm going to give you ABC, then obviously there's no reason for them to say no. But when you do that, that's the biggest mistake I feel agencies and entrepreneurs make. Eventually that backfires on them. And 2 months later, the client leaves you and they're more angry than they were before. My logic when I close is my ability to translate what I know in a way any other entrepreneur or a non-tech person can understand how I can help them with their business. Right? Being very genuine, being very true, being very honest, and truly explaining the technical jargon in a way that anyone would understand, where it makes sense saying, oh, this makes sense. This is what we do, this is why we do it, and this is what the result would be. Right. And I think that if you're able to understand by also getting to know the person a bit better, right? And I personally, I hate formal conversation. I can never do it. Like I had this problem in college, school. I look at every client as, like a digital, like I'm like their digital partner rather than an agency or someone else. So for me, when I have a conversation with someone, it's more natural. I'm just having a conversation telling them how I would tell someone else how it works. So for me, I don't even prepare. There's no pitch per se. Maybe there is a pitch, but I don't realize it consciously. But it's more to do with just explaining, figuring out, okay, this is the problem. Think of if I was Ian, what would my fears be?
Right.
Right? Is it going to be that, okay, fine? Or what would my objectives be with the business? Is it going to be like sales? Or is it going to be awareness? Is it a new brand? Is it an old brand? Are they rebranding? So how could I figure out those little things from a business perspective and put digital tools to it, which makes sense, and then explain it in a way where anyone would understand? That's what I always do with every client, literally.
Excellent. So, Sahaan, you explained that so beautifully. Now, I want you to focus on one thing. Uh,
Sure.
If somebody has to now predict where Sahaan would be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years from now, what would that kind of prediction look like? And do you have any picture in your mind, or are you just saying, no, one day at a time, boss, don't ask me these questions?
I would say both, because on a macro level, I know exactly what I'm going to do when I'm 30 or what I'm going to do when I'm 35, financially and investment wise. But on a micro, in terms of operations, I feel every day when I wake up, it's like a war I'm going to, because only an entrepreneur can relate to that. Like, there are hundreds of calls, the things going to and fro, this good, bad. And then I feel like there's no point like thinking about tomorrow, because that's going to ruin my day to day. So if I can operate it today well and think a day ahead, I'm fine. But on a macro level, I exactly know, okay, fine. If I have to, I always work backwards. If I have to get to, let's say, 5 crore in saved money when I'm 30, how much should I be putting in SIPs now? How much should I be putting in other investments now? So I always work backwards. So I would say both, if that makes sense.
Love this way you balance things out. You have your income stream, and I think Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has taught you a lot. So I can see that already applying in your life. And your SAP investments, where the money makes money for you and you're not really working for it. I think it's brilliant. So two questions before I close with you, Sahaan.
Definitely.
Number one, what is your biggest learning in life? And number two, what's your big dream?
So these are very deep questions, not something I can easily answer, but let me give it a shot. In terms of what is my biggest learning in life, I would say to be patient, Ian, more than anything else. I think it's something which I didn't have and I used to lack. But when you're trying to do something as an entrepreneur, you're very fast paced. And when you tend to see results, we push it. But I think patience is something which I'm still learning. I think that is the biggest learning, putting an effort and just waiting. And waiting, even though it's very easy to wait when things are going well, it's about being patient and learning to wait, irrespective, good or bad.
Give us a hack for that. How do you keep patience in play when things are not going well? You must have learned something. Tell us.
100%. So I was speaking to my mom like 6-7 months ago. She showed me this chart of, I think, some Guruji, and the chart said that if you have a problem, there was an arrow which says, can you solve it? Can you not solve it? If you can solve it, then stay calm. If you can't solve it, then stay calm because you can't solve it. If there is no problem, stay calm. So when you think about it practically, if you can't change the outcome, why are we not calm? Mm-hmm. So that really held on to me, saying that, okay, you know what, if I can't do anything and I've done what I could, there's no point ruining my head.
That's a huge hack. Please thank your mom for that.
No, for
That's
sure.
a huge hack.
And the other thing I would say, what was the other question, Ian, in terms of
what's your big dream? I mean, if you want to share it.
Well, I think freedom, Ian. I think freedom is something which people, like when we go, like from a kid, I have never been, I don't know if this sounds good or bad. For me, I don't like to have A or B. I want both. And for me to do that, I feel that I need to, and I don't like asking someone else, right? I would never say, hey, dad, I want this, even though they've never ever not given anything I've ever asked for in my life, and also taught me the upbringing in a way how to respect that and value money. But for me, I feel that when I grow up, like let's say to an age of 30, 35, I want to have that financial freedom, which gives me and my family that space and that ability to do what we want and live a good life. And I think freedom is what drives me every day.
Superb. You explained that so well. So freedom, and I like the aspect that you said. I don't want A or B. I want A and B,
Yeah.
and I think you called that out so well. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to ask one more question because
Yeah.
you're so young and you're still so intelligent. You must be having some mentors. Like you said, I went to mom and mom said this. So do you have some mentors in your life? Do you have something that you, somewhere you go to? Because sometimes I'm sure you require to have some sounding board.
Definitely, in the beginning, I would learn from everyone I could, and I would. The good thing is because I did not have one mentor, even though this is not the most ideal and what everyone do. I used to take things which apply for me,
Okay.
right? So my mom and dad have taught me a lot, especially in terms of staying calm, being patient, persistence, hard work, discipline. These are things which I definitely learned from my parents because they have practiced it and they don't just preach it. Uh, the second thing I would say I learned from Anurag Batra, who's another mentor. He's a chairman of Business World. He's someone who's taught me a lot about, irrespective of how big you get, staying on your foot and staying grounded and always valuing people and a sense of speaking. Then there are other friends of mine from Swaroop and lots of friends where they're doing really well, which opens my eyes saying that, what, there are other people pushing harder than you and going through things harder than you do. So how can you, stay calm even in this resilient situation? So I think I learned from a lot of people. As much as I say that I do want a mentor who would be able to get me to a stage where he's already doing something better or bigger, I would say I'm on a pursuit of finding that one person.
Super. So, San, thank you so much. I think it's really been brilliant talking to you. And
Likewise.
the points that I picked up from you, San, I'm just going to call out a few. Stay calm, believe in what you're talking about, have some sort of a goal, also have a SIP, keep some money aside so that that money makes money for you and you don't touch what you're doing in the mainland. Also, the aspect of automating things so that you're not required anymore. I think all of these points, and I like the way that you said, even if one of your top people leave and they leave with a good intention, I think it's fine. You'll back that up. So much of maturity from a young man of 24 years. I'm hoping that a lot of the world starts to look at your story, Sahan, and starts to pick up some pointers from it because yours has been a huge success story. I'm going to keep following you, Sahan, and we'll have some more conversations as we go forward.
I'd love that.
Meantime, yeah,
For sure. I would love that. I mean, honestly, thank you so much for having me in this. I think this is something really nice for lots of other entrepreneurs to get inspired about and learn from you and the person who's speaking, whoever it might be in the next one. I would say, even as a client, I think you guys have been great. And it's a pleasure working with you guys. I have so much to learn from you. So does the team. And I think it's a great collaboration. I look forward to again catching up on another talk like this.
awesome. Thank you so much, Sahan, and I'm looking forward to working closely with your team. Please take it from me that, when we work with someone, we believe that they are our partners anyway.
Right.
The commercial part aside. We are partners, and I believe if we can grow your team in some way, and we've been having some really good discussions with Sukruf and Mamta, and I really, I'm really honored to have those discussions with them and with you. It's been awesome. I mean, I can pick up the phone, at late night time, and you'll answer it, and we have a good conversation. And 2 minutes, and we have already moved beyond that issue. So it's a pleasure working with you, and I'm sure you're going to go places. I wish you all the best, Sahan. And I wish the world starts to look at youngsters like Sahan who have made a niche for themselves, created a nice highway, and they are already successful any way you look at it. So thanks, Sahan. And I'm saying more young entrepreneurs, the better for the country. And young leaders like you are going to make this nation a better and a bigger superpower. So thank you. And
Thank you so much, Ian. It was a pleasure. If I could end with one note, Ian, I think, for anyone who's watching, I personally think Ian's taught me a lot throughout this journey, even if it's a short time. And I think if you guys are struggling from anything, I would say from communication skills, leadership skills, I think involuntarily I've learned so much from Ian. If you get a chance or the opportunity to work with him or like learn from him, I think it's like a no-brainer. So I just wanted to put that out there because I think you added so much value to us, Ian. Thank you.
Wow. I got free publicity on this one.
It's just honest. So I mean, it's
Wow.
speaking from my heart.
That's beautifully said. Thank you so much, Sahaan,
Thank
and
you.
more power to you and more power to
Definitely.
India.
We'll catch up. Thank you.